Hi, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about some of the awesome content awaiting you at this year's Global Ethics Summit. I'm your host, Bill Coffin, and this is the Ethicast. The Global Ethics Summit will be held on April 22nd through the 24th in Atlanta, Georgia, where for 3 days, more than 100 speakers will share the latest insights, trends, and best practices in the field of ethics, compliance, and business integrity. More than 2,000 in person and virtual participants will attend this event, representing more than 350 organizations across 60 plus industries. If you haven't registered already, please make sure that you do. It really is a can't miss event. But putting together an event of this size and scope is no easy feat. It requires months of planning and wrangling dozens of subject matter experts, speakers, and more to create a content experience that covers the breadth and depth of where the ethics and compliance profession is today and where it's likely to be tomorrow. With us today to talk about how the Global Ethics Summit comes together and why you should really consider attending is Emily Rickaby. Emily is Director, Shared Experience and Strategic Projects for Ethisphere. She works with Ethisphere's data and analytics team and members of the ethics and compliance community to foster collaboration and share best practices in the field of business integrity. Emily, welcome to the show. We're so glad you could join us.
Hey, Bill, it's great to be here.
When it comes to creating the agenda for the Global Ethics Summit, there are so many topics and experts to choose from. So, how do you tap into the larger ethics and compliance community to come up with the topics to be discussed?
Yeah, Bill, I think it really is, it's going to sound very simple, but it's all about listening and asking questions, right? We get to interact, especially with our Bella members and the broader community, but through our roundtables and our working groups. We do more than 40 roundtables every year, and the topics on those roundtables are member driven, right? Or they're participant driven. And oftentimes the conversations that happen there will spark the next roundtable. So we really try to listen carefully to the conversations that are taking place in the room. I think another way that we tap into what is on the minds of E&C leaders is through our own experts and our work with clients. When our experts are working with clients and they go really deep when they're doing a program assessment or a culture assessment. So we are really in a unique position to be able to hear the specifics of what's happening within a particular company, within a particular industry. And as we start to see some of these trends in the conversations, we start to say, yeah, there's really something here. And we look for ways to broaden that up and include that in something like the summit agenda. And of course, we're consumers of all the content published by the broader community as well.
Yeah.
So we are always keeping our ear to the ground, listening for things that are happening in the broader space to make sure that we're finding that nice blend of what's really important to the people that we are closest to through our clients and our members, and also sort of what's happening in that bigger landscape.
The discipline of ethics, compliance, and business integrity has come a long way over the years, and the Global Ethics Summit has been there both to chronicle and be part of that progress. As you look at the themes driving this year's Global Ethics Summit, how do they reflect the business integrity's discipline's current state of change?
Yeah, I think state of change is the best way to put it. This is our 15th Global Ethics Summit. And we've seen a lot over the years with this program. And every year, one of the goals is to hold conversations about what have been some of the biggest successes and the biggest misses, right? What have we learned? How has the environment changed? How has the profession responded? So, for example, the last 2 or 3 years, it's been very heavily focused around ESG. And if people remember before then, the big area of focus was data privacy. And this year, what we're seeing, of course, is AI. It is sort of the monster topic that is eating all other topics at this point in time. And it's moving very swiftly. And that's why at this year's agenda, we have 3 panel conversations around this topic, plus a workshop. And we're not covering just, we're trying to be more real selective about what we're covering. So we are going to talk about guidance, right? What's the appropriate way to guide your organization through the waters of innovation related to AI, but also as a consumer of AI, as an ethics and compliance leader and program manager, how can you use some of these great AI tools to further develop your program? So that's certainly going to be something that you're going to see throughout the agenda this year.
At the heart of this event is discussing and servicing best practices in ethics and compliance. So, based off of what we can expect to see at this year's Global Ethics Summit, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities facing E&C professionals who are looking to cultivate truly best in class practices, procedures, and programs?
Yeah, I think, in some ways, the challenge is always the same, right? We're trying to find ways to meaningfully impact that employee behavior so that they can lean to the side of performing their roles in that ethically sound way. But the environment in which E&C leaders operate is constantly changing, right? Go back to our last point. And it makes the work really difficult, not just in terms of new regulations or enhanced enforcement, but the way that we've all work is changing or has changed and continues to change. So, for example, what might have been an effective training or communication strategy 2 years ago may no longer be resonating with employees. It may not fit within the framework of how they do their jobs. And that's really that's a real challenge because it may have taken you a year or more to develop your latest, right, training and communications plan. And here already it feels like, oh, now we've got to go to something new. We've got to switch directions. So that's what we try to focus on every year at the summit as well, is how to keep your program relevant and fresh, as well as keeping up with, right, the regulatory changes, the business environment changes, and the larger shifts that we're seeing across the culture in terms of workplace. So, for example, we always try to hit on a lot of the core program elements at the summit, but in a way that's specific to now. So one of the programs that we have during a breakout session is From Hotline to Helpline to Hear Me Now. It's capturing the voice of your employees. So right there in the title, you sort of see the evolution of that aspect of your program. At one point, it was all about, we just need to get the hotline. We need to know if something's on fire. People have to go, have a place they can go to. And then it's kind of like, well, really, we want them to engage with us more than when there's just a problem. It's a helpline. They should be able to ask questions. And now it's all about how can we use that channel or the channels that we have set up to get closer to our employees, to use it as a way to sort of constantly monitor the effectiveness of our program or the way that our workplace culture is changing. Another real specific example is training. We always try to have a session that covers some aspect of training and communications at the summit. And this year, it's all about utilizing that just-in-time training, right? We can't just download onto our employees for an hour every year all that they need to know about, right, the ins and outs of these little ethical missteps could really cause them some real angst and the organization some real serious problems. So the focus will be, how does that change now? What does that mean for us today? So those are just a couple of examples of how we try to find that balance between coverage over the core elements of a program and what that means for our E&C community in the present moment and as they look to the immediate future.
It's often said that one of the big parts of events like this is networking. So for those who are attending live and those who are attending virtually, can you talk a bit about how they can get value from interacting with their fellow attendees?
Yeah, I think, it's all about FaceTime. I mean, that's the real benefit to these events. It's getting to rub shoulders and be in the same space and breathe the same air, right? As your peers, as your mentors, other thought leaders, Ethisphere experts. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for one-on-one conversations, whether in person or virtually via the platform. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that a virtual experience is just as good as being there in person. That's just the reality of it. But the platform that we have for those attending virtually has a lot of ways for people to connect one-to-one. So I think whether you're attending virtually or whether you are here in person, number one, at any of our events, we always encourage people to ask a lot of questions or make a comment, right? You're going to be sitting in those breakout sessions, especially the breakout panel conversations, which are more practical focused, more day-to-day. Ask a question, offer an example from your own program. Let's broaden the discussion in the room beyond just the folks on the stage. As you're connecting with individuals I have never come across anyone at our events, within our Bella community, within the broader community that isn't open to the outreach. Ask the question, ask for 10 minutes of their time, ask to meet them for breakfast the next day. If you're on the platform and attending virtually and you see someone drop an interesting question or comment in the chat field, you can connect with them one-to-one privately right there in the system. Do it. Reach out and say, hey, I really like what you had to say there. Or even if you don't have time because there's a lot going on within the event itself, say, hey, can we quickly set up a 20-minute call, a 30-minute call for next week while everything is still fresh for the both of you? So I really think that's the key, is just taking advantage of the space and the place and the timing in which you find yourself. And people want to be asked questions. They want to engage with you. So don't be afraid.
One of the tough parts about attending a big event like this is understanding how to make the most of it, especially when there are more sessions than you can physically attend, and or if you're attending for the first time and don't really know what to expect. So, can you offer some inside tips on how attendees can make the most of their experience?
Yeah, for sure. We've got these 3 days and it's a really compressed agenda, right? We're trying to offer a lot of opportunities in a short period of time and meet that balance between providing the breadth of coverage without overwhelming, right? The folks that are attending in person or online. So first thing to know is that all the panel conversations are recorded and they're available to all the attendees, whether you're there in person or whether you're attending via the platform. So that's the first important thing to know. It's like, okay, those things are covered. I can go back and catch them. Now, keep in mind, how often have you said that? And I'm guilty of this as well. How often have you said, I'll just watch the recording later, and you don't do it?
Right.
So my advice is to set up a personal version of the agenda that allows you to make the most efficient use of your time, right? Follow your interests and your program priorities. You may, if you're in person and you have the opportunity to meet with another peer or a leader on a particular topic, I would say grab that. There's so many wonderful spaces in the hotel that we're hosting this conference. I just want to encourage people to take advantage of those, right? Those are the opportunities that you can't recreate later in time. So do that. I would say if you're attending with other colleagues, whether in person or virtually or some sort of mix, get together with your colleagues before the summit. See how you can divide and conquer. What's most important to your program? What do you need to hit live? Where are you going to spend your time? And then even before you go to the summit, schedule that follow-up meeting with one another. What a great way to come back together and share lessons learned, and maybe even think about, are there people in other organizations that you definitely want to follow up with and continue the conversation from there.
Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your behind the scenes look at this year's Global Ethics Summit. I'm looking forward to being there myself.
Me too. I can't wait.
To learn more about this year's Global Ethics Summit, please visit attendges.com for details about the event's agenda, sessions, speakers, and more. And don't forget, Ethicast listeners get a special rate when registering. Enter the code Ethicast24 at checkout for a 20% discount off your registration fee. I'm Bill Coffin, and this has been the Ethicast. For more episodes, please visit the Ethisphere YouTube channel at youtube.com/Ethisphere. And if this is your first time enjoying the show, please make sure to like and subscribe either on YouTube or on our podcasting platforms at Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon Music. Thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, remember, strong ethics is good business.